morning. We have an amazing speaker. It'll be her first time, Miss Alyssa Love, so I'm very excited to be facilitating for Miss Alyssa today, and we will also have some intercessors as well. But let's first go with these announcements. So this July in 2025, we have Vision Casters coming back. I know that is always an exciting event to be at Inspiring Ministries. It'll be with Networking Kingdom Resources. This will be on July 17th through the 19th. They will be going over business training, interactive training, entrepreneurship, investment opportunities, networking, and then vending opportunities. Like I said before, this will be at Inspiring Ministries campus. It's always great energy to be at Inspiring, and you always are just poured into. It's always amazing hospitality as well. So if you can, get out there. If you can't, I know that they always have online options. So that is always something that you don't have to miss out on. If you can do Zoom, that would be awesome just for you to be in that atmosphere as well. So definitely attend if you can. This is July 17th through the 19th. We have Restoration Ministries at Judah International. They meet on Sundays, 1:30 to 3 p.m. This is weekly, and it's available for church members and then also just community members. If you have someone that is interested in this restoration guide, they're going to go over the Shattered to Restored Restoration Guide with the author, Miss Nanette Larson. And like I said, it's open to anyone. So like if you know someone or if you're interested, anybody is free to come. We have our men's Bible study. This is with Inspiring Ministries and Judah International Ministries. Anybody is welcome. They meet on the second Saturday of each month on Zoom. So you do not have to physically be anywhere. So location does not matter. They meet from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. the second Saturday of each month on Zoom. If you would like more information from Inspiring, please contact Elder Johnny Collins. And if you are in the Judah area, then please contact Elder Daryl Brown for more information. Okay, we also have our SALT Young Adults group. This is also with Inspiring Ministries and Judah International Ministries. Again, everyone is welcome. I know I have invited different people. Everybody is welcome to invite different people. We meet on the second and fourth Sundays of each month. We try to stick to that schedule. I know sometimes it gets a little jumbled up, but that is the schedule that we are on. We are really accepting people from 18 to up to 30. There's a little bit of, flexibility with that, of course, but we have amazing conversations, very vulnerable conversations. Apostle Eric and Teacher Rebecca, they're the ones that are leading the group. Sometimes we have Deacon Alyssa Young, and she's a great leader as well. Alyssa and I have taught on there as well. So Apostle and Teacher Rebecca just are very good about having great conversations, relevant conversations, and just getting us all involved. If you're at Inspiring Ministries, you can please contact Deacon Alyssa Young or Alyssa Love, who will be teaching today, or me, Patience Brown, if you're at Judah as well. Okay, so we do have the launch that is still coming up. Hopefully you were able to see the updates that Elder Diane had posted of us getting, I think it was the gas line. So that is amazing. The launch is still moving forward. Of course, we're still praying for new resources, more resources to come through. We are also all hands on deck. So whenever we have events, please reach out. I know Miss Ambra is somebody that is a good contact for, if we're having events or things like that. So it's a very exciting time at Judah. And we are just excited that the Lord is with us and that he's helping us to move forward with that launch. So for our theme for Trumpeter's Call, we do have that Stay on the Wall. For today, I am very excited to be facilitating for Miss Alyssa Love. I know that this will be her first time teaching on the Trumpeter's Call live. We were able to teach together in December at Inspiring Ministries, and that was an amazing experience. So I am just very excited to see what she has to give to us today. So I know that you guys will support her. I'll be supporting her, and then we'll be able to have some conversation after she's done with her teaching. So I'm really excited. So Miss Alyssa, if you are ready, I will have you. There you go. All right. I am excited to hear what you have to say. I will go to the back and I'll come back later, okay?
Okay. Good morning. I am Alyssa Love. I am a part of the young adult ministry at Inspiring, which is SALT. And I am grateful for this opportunity to be on here today. With the theme or the topic of staying on the wall, in full transparency, it has been a little bit intimidating for me, just with the topic itself, because I feel like I do more. I was telling patients I do more fighting the wall than I feel like staying on it. But I know that God is very strategic, and I am in this seat not only to teach others, but also to teach and remind myself how important it is to stay on the wall and stay diligent in the purpose that God has for me. So I want to start in Nehemiah chapter 6, verse 3. And it says, and I'm reading from the Christian Standard Bible, and it says, so I sent messages to them saying, I am doing important work and cannot come down. Why should the work cease while I leave it and go down to you? So with this response, this is his response is like the blueprint or the outline for how we should respond when different things come and try to deter us, or different distractions come and try to get in the way of what we are called to be doing. So when studying, I looked at it and just really looked at myself first, just to assess and figure out, like, why do I feel like for me it's a struggle, or sometimes it's difficult to stay in position and stay on the wall and stay diligent in what I'm supposed to be doing. And after searching through myself and also just thinking about some things in general that can get in the way, I came up with where God showed me 5 different things that can sometimes get in the way of what we're supposed to be doing. The first one is emotions. The second one, experiencing feelings of inadequacy. The third one is feeling tired or burnout in waiting. The fourth one is trying to rush the process or be in control. And then the fifth one is not prioritizing our own mental health. So with the first one, with emotions, emotions are a very big part of who we are as people. We all have different experiences with emotions. We all have different ways that we express emotions based off of the different life experiences that we have. But I think one thing that's fair to say for all of us is that our emotions have the ability to drive us, both good and bad. Emotions can shape how we perceive information, make decisions, and interact with other people. Like I said, that's based off of our own experiences and our own perception of the different things that life has shown us. We experience so many things on a day-to-day basis that make it difficult for us to give in or give up. And emotions play a big role in that. One thing, if we're leaning into those feelings and those emotions and not taking the time to process the emotions in a way that honors God, and that keeps us from being in position or staying in position. Nehemiah chapter 1, verses 4 through 11 shows us Nehemiah's response to learning about the state of Jerusalem and the wall. But even though it says he mourned and wept for what was going on, it also says that he fasted and prayed and repenting and asking for favor before he struck out on what he felt that God was showing him or having for him to do. Our response to emotions shouldn't be to sit in the emotions and not act, but instead our emotions should be a guide on how to pray and push forward in whatever space that it is God has for us. The second point or second barrier that sometimes that keeps us from staying in position and staying on the wall is experiencing feelings of inadequacy. The definition of inadequate is lacking the quality or quantity required, or insufficient, or feeling insufficient for our purpose. As believers, inadequacy completely contradicts who we are as believers and our purpose. In our last Salt, which is our young adult ministry, teacher Rebecca said something that has really just been sitting in the back of my mind. And she said, as the body of Christ, we are called to not just build disciples, but also reach those outside of the church. And as believers, none of us are insufficient for that purpose, and that's not because of who we are, but because of who God is. So in Second Corinthians 12:9, God says that my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is perfected in weakness. So even when we're feeling feelings of inadequacy or we're feeling weak, that's just an opportunity to experience the power of God that moves through us. Because even as we move throughout our purpose, the whole point is for God to get the glory. So it's okay if we feel like, we're not we're weak, or we feel like we're inadequate, because that just gives him more room to work, and for us to just experience who God is and allow other people to experience who God is through us. God equips us and gives us what we need to fulfill our purpose. When in chapter 2, when Nehemiah approached the king to gain favor to go on to do what he felt God was calling him to do, he was granted different provisions. And it seems like he asked, I think, for about 3 or 4 things. And each one of them he found favor with the king. And it wasn't because of his position or who he was. It was because in verse 8, it specifies that it's because of the hand of God was on him. So even if we may be feeling inadequate, God, he gives us what we need. And we may not see that in everything, but he always shows up and makes a way, and goes before us and makes a way for us to do exactly what it is he's called us to do. So worrying about our inadequacy, or worrying about whether or not we have all the skill set is not the part that we should focus on, because he's going to give us everything that we need for that season. When it comes down to our individual contributions, just like when they were building the wall, every contribution was important and meaningful. So in chapter 3, Nehemiah chapter 3, it goes into great detail about who I was a part of building, and where they were from and what areas they were focused on. And just reading in that, I was trying to make sure I didn't miss anything, and I understood the importance of each part. Because even in just reading that chapter, it feels like, they're just listing things, or they're just saying, taking account of who did what. And I wanted to be careful not to miss something that was in there that was important. So when I was reading, I came across a devotional that was in my Bible as well. And it was just talking about the importance of everything and how everything goes apart for the bigger plan. And it highlighted in Nehemiah 3, verse 15, Shalon, he was responsible for repairing the pool of Shelah. And in reading that, it sounds just like everything else that that they was just taking into account. But what I learned from studying was that pool, the pool of Shelah, is known in other books or in the New Testament as the pool of Siloam. And this is the pool where in John, Jesus was at this pool when he restored vision to the blind man. So even when we feel like what we have or what we're called to do in this moment is insignificant, or doesn't really serve a purpose, God can use that in the best way possible. The third barrier, or what the third point of, what sometimes gets in the way of us staying on the wall and staying in position, is feeling tired or experiencing burnout in waiting. With the topic like staying on the wall, persistence is needed and it's very important. And persistence can often lead to burnout. Specifically as believers, exhaustion or burnout can cause us to give up on what God has for us. And burnout can be, I know it's a very big social work term, a social service term, where you're continuing to do something and be present and showing up and doing the same thing and experiencing that burnout and not having the enjoyment and the enjoyment of what it is that you're actually doing. And if we're not careful as believers, we can get stuck in that space, and then that keeps us from doing exactly what we're called to do in that season. Our dedication to our post or position should be a reflection of our level of faith. And this is an area where I struggle heavily, because I feel like for me, I burn myself out with worrying about things that I should be trusting God with. And in doing that and consistently worrying, I'm inadvertently trying to put myself in God's shoes. And I can't stay in position or stay on post in where I'm supposed to be if I'm trying to do my job and God's job. He doesn't need my help. God doesn't need me in order for him to still be great. It's the other way around. So I can't focus on doing what it is that he's doing, because one, I wouldn't be able to do it. But two, I would also drive myself even further in burnout. Number 4, trying to rush the process or being in control is also something else that can stop us or keep us from being in position where we're supposed to be. Staying in the space and working the process of what God has given us is not always easy and always an easy experience. It can be sometimes connected with pain, frustration, consistently wanting to skip to the best part. And so for this one, he shows me this analogy often. And it's one I'm very grateful for. So for me, I love music. I absolutely love music. More specifically, I love older music, like in the 60s and the 70s, Motown, my favorite type of music. My favorite group would be the Temptations. I absolutely love them, love everything just about their music, their performance. And I can remember being younger and just really enjoying the biopic. I could stand in the middle of the living room and perform every song, every routine. And there's a specific scene in the movie where they're recording one of their greatest hits, which is Papa Was a Rolling Stone. And I can remember waiting to get to the best part, or waiting to get to them singing. But you can actually see them put every part into the song, all of the instruments, all of the layering and things like that. And I can remember as a child rushing or trying to rush and being very impatient to get to the lyrics or what I thought was the best part of the song, and experiencing that frustration. So the actual song is almost 12 minutes long. And I remember one time I said, and I was waiting to the lyrics, and I'm like, when does the lyrics start? When does the good part start? And the lyrics they don't start until 4 minutes in. And so that's experiencing all of that, trying to get to that part, which is what I perceive to be the best part of the song, and just being frustrated. But now I can appreciate that. I can appreciate all of the things that went into the song, listening to all of the different instruments, the different pieces, while I wait for the best part of the song. And I remember writing, and I was listening to it one time, and I was at peace and just listening to the song as if it, just not brushing or anything. And I could hear God telling me that that's how I should experience life. Not rushing to get to a certain part, or not rushing to get to a certain place, but being able to enjoy all that goes into it, because everything has a purpose and everything is significant in making in the whole part of it. In our last young adult meeting, Hannah said a quote that she said Elder Brown says often, which was, "The destination is the journey," and that has really been sitting with me. Because I'm one who tries to check off everything on the list and get to the part that I think is the best part, and then that I can miss all of the things that the waiting is trying to teach me and show me. Because if I'm not careful, running or rushing or trying to get to the good parts, it makes me discount everything that went into that came before it, or that helped me get to the finish line. And then when I get there, I can't really enjoy what I should be enjoying, or I can't really enjoy the finish line, or that end result, because I didn't take the time to appreciate everything that was in the process. James chapter 1, verses 2-4 says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete and lacking in nothing." So just going back to it, everything that we experience and everything that we encounter is for a purpose. And we want to be careful not to discount anything or discredit any of that, so that we can enjoy the fullness of the thing once it has come, once we get to that finish line. The last point, or the last barrier that keeps us from not staying on the wall and staying in position, is not prioritizing mental health. And for me, I'm a social worker, and so being a mental health professional, excuse me, being a mental health professional and a Christian, I often find myself trying to bridge the gap between mental health and faith in God, because sometimes we say we have faith in God, and we discredit what He's using to give us this thing, or to heal us, or to cover us or push us forward in an area. So just for an example, with dealing with depression, you can say that you have faith in God to heal, and then saying that we have faith in God to heal, and then seeing a therapist or taking medication. That doesn't mean that you have less faith in God, but also it really means that you have faith in Him, that He can use anything for His glory, and use anything to get us to where we need to be. Prioritizing mental health and being the best version of ourselves will push us further into position, into what God has for us. So with these 5 different barriers, staying on the wall, with these 5 different barriers to stand on the wall, I'm challenging myself and everyone to do a few things to combat those barriers. The first one is learning to speak truth, learning and speaking the truth. For the enemy, he wants us to have these negative thoughts on repeat in our head, and he wants us to be discouraged, which gets us out of our position. One thing that we use for me on my job when we're working with our clients and our families is a thing called the cognitive triangle. And that's just the routine or the pattern of how our thoughts affect our feelings, and our feelings affect our behaviors, and then gives us whatever end result. So if we're constantly in a negative mindset, those negative thoughts are going to affect our feelings and give us negative feelings, in which will show in negative behaviors. So the best way to combat that is speaking truth, learning what God has for us, by studying His Word, learning who He has for us to be, because He is such a positive God, and He doesn't have any negative connotations or any negative light in how He sees us. So we shouldn't have that for ourselves. So being able to change those negative thoughts into positive thoughts, and then those negative feelings into positive feelings. That way we don't have negative behaviors, which is us not being on the wall and not being in position. It's us stepping into the fullness that He has for us. The second point is being obedient even when it's not the popular thing to do. We've heard the saying a lot. I know I've heard it a lot. If doing the right thing was easy, everyone would be doing it. So just being comfortable and being obedient to God, and listening and following His directions, even when it may seem like we're the only ones doing it, or when it seems like it's very difficult or rough, because God, He rewards that obedience. And not only does He reward that obedience and honor it, it puts us in a position to lead by example. In which goes back to that point that I was making earlier, the point that teacher Rebecca said, if our purpose is to excuse me, is to build disciples, and then go out and reach those who may not be in the church. Leading by example is going to be the thing that gets us there and gets us those people, who helps us win those souls. Because if we're not obedient in our position, and we're trying to go and reach people, and they don't see what that looks like, it's not going to be effective. So we want to make sure that we're leading by example, and just really demonstrating, just like Nehemiah, what God wants for us when we're in position, and to not be easily distracted, not to be easily influenced, but to really stand in what we're doing and what we've been called to do. And then the third point to combat those barriers to stay on the wall is finding peace and experiencing God in all things. You have to be able to recognize God's hand in everything, whether it's to teach us a lesson, strengthen us, or to bless us. Because God he's in everything. He's in the small details. He's in the big details. And so if we're not careful, when negative things happen, when these distractions happen, we'll be on the defensive and be wondering, like, why is this happening to me, instead of what God is trying to show, me. And being able to recognize what he's trying to show me, it gives us those life lessons. It gives us those experiences, that frames how we encounter people, how we encounter situations, and it just overall strengthens us. Because if we know something is for a purpose, we weigh different. If we know something is for a reason, we can find strength, and we can pull from that strength, knowing that whatever we're going through right now is not going to be, it's not going to happen always, and it's not going to stay that way forever. So those are my points. I think this has helped me, more than anything, just learn what to do when I'm in this waiting, and while I'm in position, and how to remain faithful to that position, and be everything that God has for me, and just to be able to do that, and be, like I said, be in a position where I'm leading by example, and so that I can be the person that God has called me. So I thank you for your time, and I thank you for just being in this space to be able to learn this for myself, and also teach it as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Great job, Alyssa.
Thank you.
So proud of you. Yes. Okay, that was really good. I love that you tied in the social work. Okay, social work girlies. Um, because that is so true. Because I tell people, I'm like, therapy is like, there are Christian therapists, like they're
Mhm.
that God has put on this earth to, help you walk it through. And this, I'm like, the people that are like, I only need Jesus, I don't need therapy. I'm like, that's why you need therapy, right there. I'm like,
Absolutely.
yes, Jesus is amazing. He also put people on here that went to school, like he called them to do these things. So
Right.
yes. Make sure you look at the comments too. People are shouting you out. Elder Lafayette said, great teaching. Gabby said, great job, Alyssa. So good. Um, Trumpeter's call, I think that's Apostle. He said, great job. Miss Aretha said, excellent. So yes, you're getting
Thank
great
you.
feedback. You did an amazing job. And like I said, I love that you added in the social work. I love that you were talking about that cognitive triangle. I remember, I think you were there too when Elder Neil was talking about, like, basically how your brain is just like about patterns. And, like, if you're doing something negative, your brain's automatically going to go to that.
Mhm.
Also for the positive too, is like, if you have that pattern of doing something positive, that your brain will catch on to that too. So you made some great connections. So I do want to get into like our little interview. And then the first thing I would like to talk about is how you were able to get to this point, because I know that, like, especially with being on Trumpeter's call, being in SALT, that has definitely stretched us in different ways. So I'm like, it was amazing for you to take that step, or this step, for yourself to be able to actually, like, step forward and do it on your own account. So how was that process for you of like, how has SALT helped you to like grow as a person, as a leader, and kind of like how you were able to get here to be on Trumpeter's call with us this morning?
Mhm. I think SALT has helped. Well, I know SALT has helped me in multiple ways. And I think the biggest thing is like being able to do, like I've heard the phrase, do it scared,
Yeah.
and not backing down, from any challenges or anything that is in front of me. Because going back to the point I was making earlier, I know everything is for a purpose. And if I, get in my emotions and allow myself to not be, continue to grow in different areas, that's not that's doing me that's just a dissatisfaction for myself
Yeah.
and for God and what God is trying to do. So just really just doing it scared, doing it with,
Yeah.
even if I'm feeling anxious or having a lot of anxiety about a thing, I'm doing it so that I can gain the experience and gain the knowledge, and so that I can keep going and growing in who God has for me.
Yes, that is so important. Um, do you feel like there are a lot more things that you've been doing scared, or do you feel like this is just the beginning? Or how are you kind of like going through that process of, moving forward with yourself?
I feel like I been in a position to do a lot of things and like do a lot of things scared, because I don't think that goes away, or that anxiety goes away. And I don't think, I want it to, because it reminds me of just how important what I'm doing is.
Mhm.
And just, being able to be humble and be in a position to be used, not just for myself, by off my own strength, but for God as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. For the young people, right? So we have SALT, the Young Adults Ministry that's at Inspiring in Judah International. For the young people, what would you say is something that maybe like you've noticed as like a pattern, or um, maybe something that has been like, like I said, continuously brought up in those talks that God has been like, helping you with as we are like meeting together?
Mhm. I think just recognizing that one thing that comes up is recognizing that like we're not on an island, and like we're all
Yeah.
experiencing some of the same things. So
Yes.
God gives us the space to come together and just encourage each other and strengthen each other,
Yeah.
when what we feel like are, we're going through these things, or like our young adult ages of like falling, bumping our heads and figuring out how to do things. We're around people who have gone through it. We have different ages in the group. So we have people who have lived these experiences and live these things, who can give us feedback, and also things that we can share from our perspective. And it just gives us that space to not feel so secluded and be a part of, growing and learning and moving together.
Yeah. And that's like, there's been so many times where we like all get together and we're like all exactly going through the same
Yeah.
thing. Of course, in different spaces and different areas, but like very in tune. So I've always thought that that was like crazy to me that like we can all be so, different parts of the world, different states, and
Mhm.
like we come together like we're still in tune, or like God is kind of like telling us all the same thing, or like somehow we're all fasting at the same time.
Right.
Like we didn't say anything to each other until we like got to the group and like we're
Mhm.
all kind of doing the same thing, or like, God's kind of giving us a summary of like what each other is saying. And I've always thought that that was like amazing that we can all be like so connected while not seeing each other as much.
Right. Absolutely.
So for like I said, like stepping out and being a leader, has was this always something that you wanted to do? Like being, connected to ministry and things like that? Or was this something that God kind of like brought up as we were going through SALT and like, kind of growing our group? Or, how did God take you through this transition?
Mhm. I definitely don't think it was something that I've always like wanted to do.
Yeah,
Because like the point I made earlier, like I feel like I do more fighting the wall than actually being on it. And
right,
that's something in that space as well.
right,
And just, like feeling those moments of inadequacy, like how am I gonna, lead someone else or teach someone else if I'm still trying to figure it out.
right.
I think coming back from coming back from college and having my experience away at college, really showed me how needed it is, just to one, be a part of a community of like the age group, but also being able to share experiences, because I know, like, even if everybody doesn't go to college, we all have that period of time where we're trying to find ourselves and,
Right.
you know, figure out what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So coming back and still being in that space, still being in that space of trying to learn who I'm supposed to be, but also being able to share my experiences and make sure that some of the things that I had to fall and bump my head and figure out, I can, help somebody else not have to go through that, and just learn
Mhm.
from my experience and the things that I went through.
Yeah. And that's like really, that's so important because like you were saying, I know you have like younger siblings as well, and like kind of watching them go through things, you're like, okay, like this is how you can get through it, but you're gonna bump your head if you keep doing what you're doing, you know? So like, I think that that's amazing that you and I get to be people that are just, a little bit more experienced with certain things and just being able to share that because I think um, that was something that I would have wanted when I was younger of even
Yes.
if I wasn't listening, I still would have liked to have somebody that was around my age or maybe a little bit older than me being like, "Okay, like, I love you. I'm trying to tell you something, even if
Yeah.
you're not gonna listen." Like, even just having that person to, like, tell you something,
Mm-hmm.
because like I said, you know how we are when we're younger, we just wanna do whatever we wanna do.
Yes, and
And
we don't always listen to like the parents or the the older people. So having someone closer in age to say it, yes, that's what I find myself wanting to be,
yeah,
like just be in that middle so that they can receive it better,
yeah,
or receive it with just listening more,
yeah,
for being somebody closer in age.
yeah, for sure. Okay, and then for the last thing that we're going to talk about is what do you believe that like God is doing in the young people today, whether that like be just with Saul or like maybe other things that you've experienced? I know that we've had like events and like we've had our worship night, which I'm excited that we will have more events this year. So like what would you say that like God is doing in the young people now? Like what have you witnessed, like the growth and things like that? What have you witnessed with the young people?
Mhm. I think more than anything, God is doing for the young adults is separating or just getting us out of doing things just out of tradition or doing things out of, I just like we're obligated to do it, and actually just having a relationship and learning what that means to have a relationship with God, and just in doing things based off of that, and not because our parents did it and our grandparents did it, but truly learning what
Yeah,
that looks like for ourselves so that we can minister, and we can just be a part of just a Christian the Christian experience, and not just in the sense of because we know that our parents did and that's what we're supposed to do. I
yes,
think by being able to do that, we're able to draw other young adults and just be an example, and just be someone that other people can look at and see
yeah,
like, okay, so they're a young person, and they're actively showing that they love God, and they're in this space of just being real genuine and true with their emotions and how they feel, and also just being real and
mhm,
relatable. So I definitely think that's something that God is doing right now.
yes, that is so beautiful. Because there is a huge difference between someone that just goes to church because their parents told them to, and someone that is doing it on their own accord, has had, an experience with Jesus Christ for themselves to be able to say, like, my parents might have introduced me to this, but now I'm doing this because I want
Mhm.
to hear, because I want to, learn more about God, learn more about the word for myself. And I will agree with you for sure that there has been so much growth. It's been like, what is it, 3 years that we've kind of been like growing this out. And
Yeah.
it's been amazing to see how it's grown and how like different people are wanting to be involved, how like, sometimes we would be in the group, it would be like 4 people. And now
Mhm.
it's 10, we have like a group that's like pretty consistent. And yeah, I'm just proud of us. I'm excited. I'm thankful that Apostle and Teacher Rebecca, like, took the time to follow through with us and like are consistent with meeting with us. Um, we have a question. It says, "What are some struggles in salt in your discernment? What are some struggles?" Um, do you have an answer for that, or do you care if I go?
Oh, you can go. Go ahead.
Okay, so yes, 3 years with salt. So the question was, what are some struggles in salt of your discernment? So for me, I would say that I guess I kind of realized like when we did that event that we do have a group that may be a little bit more driven to do things. I think that like sometimes it could be a little bit hard if there's like only a certain amount of people that may be as driven. Then it's always the collective group, which of course, like everybody, we have to give grace at the same time because everybody's in their different times of life and you never know what other people are going through. So it's not like you're coming at anybody, but I will say, especially with being in young adults, like we're all going through our different struggles in life in general. So sometimes adding on to that, especially like with God and ministry, that might be a little heavy for certain people. So I would say that might be like the struggle that I kind of have noticed is that like some people are very driven consistently, and others, it may be like it may take a little bit more pulling to kind of get them a little bit more activated. What about you, Alyssa?
I would say the same, and especially just like to the point that you made is like everybody is in different stages of their walk. So some people are still doing things because they feel obligated, and that's not negative. I don't want to shine a negative light on that,
Mm-hmm.
um, but everyone is just learning what their walk with God and what their experience with God looks like.
Right.
So and with that, you just like you said, we have to have grace, and be able to understand that we weren't always in that space of doing things out of relationship. And so with that, just like I said, having grace and just continuing to walk and be present, while everyone figures that out.
Yeah, because I'm like, I mean, I'm 27 now, but if you would have tried to get me to do this at 22, I'd have been like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. No,
Like,
thank you.
no, thank you. So yeah, so like I said, just having that grace, which is like very important because we don't want to have resentment. We're gonna be with these people for a while, So
Mhm.
it's like we're just getting into this. I am not trying to argue with anybody. I'm trying to have a great time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And hang out with God and have a great time. And
Right.
that's also for me like where prayer comes in. Because yeah, it's like you don't want to be pulling anybody to do something that they're not ready to do because then
Mhm.
they might not end up doing a great job because they don't want to,
Right.
you know. So that's also like a point of prayer for me too. Of so I don't like stress anybody out and I don't stress myself out.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you would like to say in closing? We do have our intercessors we're going to get off of live and come back to the phones to do our intercessory. But Alyssa, do you have anything
Um,
to leave us with?
I think I would just challenge like the more seasoned Christians and the more seasoned saints just to make sure that they're reaching out and encouraging those young adults,
Of course.
because it can also like even though we're in a group, we can still feel like an island in that group, and we definitely still need the advice and the guidance and the leadership of those who are much more seasoned in their walk with God. And so being in a space of trying to learn and figure that out, we are also in a space of being receptive to information and receptive to different ways to do things. So being able to turn back and impart that wisdom is
Right.
always important and always helpful.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And then our last question was, what would you like to see next? For me, I would just love to do a worship night at Judah.
Mhm.
Um, I know that we got a lot of great feedback about that. The worship night that we did in Inspiring, it was amazing. So I know like our events will only get better
Yeah,
and it'll just be amazing. So that's what I'm looking for. Worship night at Judah. But yeah, that'll be something that we gotta plan again. So
yeah,
I'm excited for that next thing.
definitely.
Okay. But thank you so much, Alyssa. You did a great job. Like I said, please go through these comments again on Facebook Live because you got some great feedback. I don't know. I know for sure we had a lot of comments, so I didn't get through all of them, but a lot of great encouragement. And I'm proud of you for stepping out and doing this. Yeah, so please come back so we can keep going doing this facilitating thing together. For the people that are on this Facebook Live, please follow us back to the phone lines because, like I said, we will be doing some intercession. But like I said, we will be here again on Thursday at 5:30 a.m. Please stay connected, and I hope that you guys have a great day.
Thank you.